Go love your own enemies. Don't be loving mine. My enemies are the theocratic fascists. I don't love them. I want to destroy them.
Child made in the image of God. Oh no, you're not. You're a faggot. And you can't join your church and you can't go to heaven. This is disgraceful. It's inhuman.
Hey y'all. Yeah, I'm trying out my southern accent, and I have a really sucky southern accent too. It sucks so bad that I try really hard not to talk like this because it sucks. And halfway through my trying to talk like this, it slowly changes. It becomes something else. Like usually it's like it changes into like a English accent, or I don't know. Anyway, sorry, I'm in a silly, goofy, bizarre mood this morning. I haven't posted any videos for a while. Not really. I had one with me talking while Haley was nosing the ground. And I had one of leafy green vegetables that miraculously took on the, well, one of them. I mean, I personally still think it was a very profound moment when Batman emerged on my cutting table. No, but there's several reasons why I haven't been making a lot of videos. Mostly has to do with the fact that I am like up until 4 in the morning sometimes driving, and I get home at like 3 in the morning. And I sit and watch TV because I'm so wound up, and it doesn't feel like it's 3 in the morning because half my day is late at night because I don't get up until like 11 in the morning. Sometimes I get up at 10. My alarm is set for 10, but sometimes I'll just lay there and read my my Facebook and email and stuff like that in bed for another 20, 30, 40 minutes, and then I get up. So really not starting my day until the day's halfway through. So at 3 in the morning, you know, when most people are sleeping, I am like staring at the TV going, yeah, wow, it's 20 after 3. I think I should probably go to bed. So my whole thing is just totally out of whack. So anyway, so I haven't been making videos. Also, just the stress of not knowing every week. It's a little different than having a steady paycheck, because I am completely, it's completely, you know, if I don't drive, I don't make money. It's a whole different ball game. But it's it's kind of exciting too, because if I want to make more money, I just drive more. I have that. Now my throat's gonna be a problem. Excuse me while I make a round of disgusting noises on camera. Okay, well, there might be more to come. But yeah, I also been trying to do something different on YouTube. I don't really have the stomach for reading Christians' posts anymore. I'll kind of scan them and I'll get a gist of what they're saying. And then when the stomach starts to churn and I start tasting vomit, I stop reading. And as a result, some of my posts might be presumptuous. I might presume to know or assume I know what they said because I just scanned it. Maybe I missed a few things. And so it does get me into trouble. I don't encourage it. I think if, you know, it's better to be thorough as a reader and not make an idiot of yourself. But I have literally lost my ability to stomach the bullshit. So it's kind of like, oh, got this again. So I don't read it all half the time. And yeah, whatever. But I have noticed though that it has helped me a lot. It has helped me a lot as far as my emotional peace of mind. It's like, just because somebody wants to stir the shit and pick a fight doesn't mean you have to let them reel you in, you know. And fish on. You don't have to perform when they want you to perform, you know. We're not circus animals. They want us to jump through the little hoops. Oh, well, let me ask you this, atheist. And guess what? The question is always the same question that you've heard a million times and you've fielded a million times. Oh God, this question again. Wow. There's overwhelming evidence to show that the universe was designed by a God. One Christian wrote this, and I wrote back and said, overwhelming evidence. I pointed out there's no evidence at all, not a shred of evidence anywhere to show that a God exists. So how can there be overwhelming evidence to show that the universe was created by said God? And then I asked this Christian to please tell me the name, because he said that recently a scientist proved this. So I just, tell me the name of this scientist. I want to know his name, his or her name, his or her field of study, and you know, is science, is there an idea of science creationism maybe? Or how to read bones? Tea leaves? You know, it's like, what scientist in their right mind would say that there's overwhelming evidence that there's, well, whatever, that the universe was intelligently designed by a God when there's no evidence for a God at all, ever, anywhere. So stuff like that. It's just like, you know, I see stuff and I will throw out my little reactions, but I'm learning the art of choosing my fights and walking away when I think it's just a waste. It's a waste. You know, you're not going to change anyone's mind. It's good to get the message out. I'm not saying don't get the message out. They need to know, Christians need to know that this stuff that they believe in is bullshit. It's not true. The Bible is fiction. They need to learn. They need to hear that message. If anything, they might go, that's bullshit. The Bible is not fiction. The Bible's 100% true. Oh, you know, if they hear the alternative message, they might actually, it might start to get under their skin a little bit. Other things might you know, come along that, you know, oh, make that seed of doubt grow a little bit more. And through the course of time, that's how it happened to me. Eventually, you have an atheist. I really think that people like Bible Thumping Wingnut and Psi 10 Button Cake, sorry, these people that are staunch defenders of Christianity, and they come up with these weird mind tricks to explain away all the glaring errors and contradictions. They're kind of like how I was. I was never an apologist, but I came up with explanations to fill in the gaps for all the illogic that the Bible presents. I came up with my own little explanations for things, right? And I think people that have to play mind tricks with themselves to be able to swallow the poisonous medicine, which is Christianity, they're atheists in the making. I think, you know, one day it's going to click in the minds. At least it clicked in my mind that, you know, I shouldn't have to do this. It shouldn't have errors. It shouldn't have contradictions. It shouldn't take a genius to be able to interpret. You shouldn't have to have apologists or learned scholars to teach the simple-minded this one truth. It should be glaringly obvious to anyone who looks at it, and it should only have one interpretation. You know, one day that just kind of fell into place for me, and I realized, you know, I shouldn't be jumping through all these hoops to understand this. You know, if it's really true, it should be true. There shouldn't be verses in the Bible that make me go, huh? You know, I'm sorry, if my God is loving, why is this verse in here? If my God isn't, if my God made women in his image too, why is this verse here? All these contradictions, all these things that don't make sense. If God says, thou shalt not kill, why does he then proceed to commit genocide and infanticide, or however the fuck that word is pronounced? I know you can go to this, like, the dictionary and type the word and press a button and it will say the pronunciation. I know this, but it's really hard when I'm just doing a stream of conscious kind of video like this one to stop and go to the dictionary and do that. So I am going to say infanticide. Hopefully people know what I'm talking about. So yeah, this one Christian writes on YouTube that it's really bad to assume things. Honestly, a Christian wrote this line. It's really bad to assume things. So I listed out to this Christian, I don't remember what video, this is just kind of like a week's worth of reading, and I'm just talking about it. I wrote back and said, yeah, and Christians assume, let's see, what do Christians assume? And I made a list. Okay. I don't have the actual note, so I'm just going to try to go by my memory of what I wrote. Okay, Christians assume that a God exists. No evidence anywhere to show that a God exists. We just assume that one does. Christians, I should say, assume. Yes, we, thinking of myself as a former Christian. For years, I assumed a God exists. I did. I just assumed. No evidence, nothing. Just assumed that what people said was true. I assumed a God exists. I assumed that the God that exists is my God, the Christian God. And all these other gods that have existed through the course of human history, and we're talking thousands upon thousands of them. Those gods don't exist. Those gods, there's only one God. I'm assuming there's only one God, and I'm assuming that it's my God, the Christian God, not Zeus, or Hercules or Apollo or, all these other gods. There's so many. The list is huge. It's my God. It just happens to be my God. It just happens to be my religion. I assume that my religion is the one true religion, not the millions of religions there have been. Or maybe, I don't know if there's millions, but hundreds of thousands of religions that there have been. It's my religion. That's the true one. I'm assuming this as a Christian. This is what I assume. There's my God, my religion, no other gods. They're all wrong. All the other religions are wrong. Okay, assuming based on zero evidence whatsoever. I assume that my book, my holy book, is the divinely inspired holy book. All the other holy books are not divinely inspired. Just mine. Yeah, just my holy book is, and not the Jewish version of it, or the ones that the Mormons read, but my particular version of the Bible is the one that's inspired by God. I assume that, and I assume that my particular interpretation of Christianity is the one true interpretation. All the others are wrong, and if you disagree with my one true interpretation of the Bible and Christianity, you're not really a Christian. I just assume this because, well, I just know. I assume that the red print, the words in red print in the Bible are Jesus's actual words, because that's what it says, it says that those are his actual words. So, I assume that's true. Even though there was nobody walking around with Jesus while he was supposedly alive and talking, there was nobody walking in his wake writing down every word he said. There was nobody writing down his Sermon on the Mount. There was nobody actually, the entire time he was alive, walking around, who wrote a single thing that he said. The first people to write about this person that supposedly lived were born after he had allegedly died. They were born after he had died. That would be like me trying to write down the words of Abraham Lincoln. This is what Abraham Lincoln really said, and you can believe it because it's in red words. And I mean, how many years has it been? Well, it's a little bit more than a few decades, okay. I'm trying to think of a better example. Well, somebody who isn't famous, okay, because somebody did write down Abraham Lincoln's words. Okay, so we'll say John Sutherland, who died in 1960. He died in 1960. John Sutherland. He was a lawyer, and he lived in Pennsylvania. I'm going to write down all the things that he said that were important. Of course, I was born after he died. I never knew him. I never walked around with him. But this is wait. I'm getting a message from God. Okay, I'm being divinely inspired. Okay, this is what this guy said. Yeah, but we're going to assume that these are Jesus's actual words, even though that the people that wrote his actual words never actually knew him, never actually walked with him, never actually heard him speak. Okay, so we're going to assume that. We're going to assume that the Bible is 100% accurate. Yeah, it's 100% verified as true, 100%. We're going to assume that the Bible is actual history, that the stories in the Bible actually happened. Yeah, we're going to assume that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were actual people, and they actually walked and talked and knew Jesus. They were his disciples. Those were four of Jesus's disciples. We're just going to assume that. Yeah, we're not going to bother to research who exactly wrote the Bible, when they wrote it, where they were located when they wrote it, whether they even set foot in the land that they were writing about. You know, we're not going to study how the New Testament came to exist. We're just going to assume that it was written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and they lived with Jesus. They camped out with him. They ate food with him. They knew him. They were his disciples. We're just going to assume this. We're going to assume that if a sentence in the Bible says something, that we have to live our whole lives by it, because it's God's will. And it's our God, and it's our religion and our interpretation. We're going to assume all these things. Yeah, we're going to assume the Bible's 2,000 years old, that it was written 2,000 years ago. Right after Jesus died, they got together and they wrote the whole thing. Yeah. We're going to assume that the historicized Jesus existed, even though there's absolutely not one shred of evidence to show this. And there is, actually, if you bother to research, there is evidence to show that he was created by the church. He was a figurehead. That the earliest Christians did not believe in a historicized Jesus. They did not know of a guy walking around and preaching. Their Jesus was a spirit being. Paul, his Jesus was a spirit being. He knew nothing at all of a living, breathing human named Jesus. Paul's Jesus lived on a spiritual plane, and everything that Paul wrote about was describing events happening on a spiritual plane. And you know what the church did? Well, I'm sorry, we're talking about assuming. So we won't get into that. But yes, you can read about it, though. So these are all just things that that Christians assume. They just assume it. But this Christian writes, oh, it's bad to assume things. You think? You think? You assume that somebody who doesn't believe in Christianity is a bad person, that naturally they just follow Satan. If they don't follow Jesus, they must be following Satan, because you only get one of two. It's one side or the other. We're just going to assume it's true because the Bible says so. We're going to assume the Bible's true because the Bible says so. We're going to assume the Bible's divinely inspired because the Bible says so. We're going to assume homosexuals are evil and abominations because the Bible says so. How far do we want to go with this absurdity? So yeah, these just little things that I picked up over the course of the week reading various posts. And today I read something about some guy wrote something about how it proves creation that humans had the same elements in their physical composition as the dirt. So it proves that God made humans from dirt, because we have the same basic minerals in our bodies as dirt. You know, Carl Sagan said something about how we are all star stuff. Everything has the same basic elements as dirt. Trees, yeah, plants, animals, all animals, fish, everything on the earth. And it proves, does it prove there's a sky wizard who waved his magic wand, excuse me, more disgusting noises, and said abracadabra, and poof, everything came to exist from absolutely nothing? Does it prove that, or does it prove that long ago there was a thing that we call the Big Bang, and everything was created from that moment? Everything, the beginning of the universe began. Oh, there's two words, at beginning and began. Anyway, Carl Sagan said we are all star stuff. And we are. We have the same elements, well, chemistry, whatever. We have this carbon, we have the same stuff as suns do. We were once, the matter that forms us was once likely part of a sun. One day, the matter that we are might become part of the sun again. I really think the universe just recycles itself over and over. Where did the universe come from? We'll never know. But I suspect it came from something that existed before us that died and was reborn. You know? Kind of like plants die, and in the spring they come back. Kind of what I think the rhythm of nature is extended into the universe, and that's what I think the universe is. It's a thing that you know, it blossoms, and then it fades away, and then it blossoms and it fades away. And I think that we'll never know the answers to things, and I'm totally okay with that. So I'm trying to think of what else, if there was anything else. I think it's a cool thing to be made from star stuff. I think it's a really cool thing that we all are part of this amazing dance. The idea of a sky wizard makes everything small, makes the grandeur and glory and magnificence of creation. See, the old habits, the old dialogue, these words that are that have been instilled in me from years and years and years of being a Christian, still sometimes pop out. The enormity of the universe is made small when you want to say, oh, this little tribal war god of Israel created it all from nothing. He just said, let there be light, and poof, and he did it all just so that little tiny group of primates that are his special creatures. Yeah. I'm like, whatever. It makes it small. You know, the last time I went to church was Westgate Chapel in Edmonds. The pastor, excuse me while he went to the Burke Museum where I used to work, and he went on their dino days, which they have once a year. They have this thing for kids, and they put together this tour. It's called Dino Days, and there's these amazing fossils on the tour. Well, this guy, who could have had a chance to learn stuff and really marvel at the amazing complexity and whatever that nature is, he went, instead of, you know, learning things and taking it in and expanding his knowledge and his awareness of the natural world, he looked at it. This is stupid. This has nothing to do with God. This has nothing to do with Bible. This is Satanism, or whatever the hell he was thinking. He had his walls up. He closed himself off from having a good time. He instead looked for things to mock. And then the next day at Sunday, for Sunday service or Sunday his sermon, what did he do? He got up and he mocked Dino Days. He mocked the people like myself that were at the Burke Museum volunteering that day to teach little children and show little children the wonders of nature. He got up and mocked it. And here I was in his congregation trying to, you know, had just joined the church. I had looked for a new church and I thought this was going to be the one. He sat there and mocked it. And then afterwards I went up and I said to him, you know, I was there. It's a big hobby of mine. Paleontology is a big hobby of mine. And he looked at me and goes, does it glorify God? And I looked back in the eye and said, yeah, I think it does. Uncovering the amazing thing that, you know, at the time I was a Christian, so that was my argument. It's just showing how amazing the master creator is, blah, blah, blah. But it was the one thing, it was the last time I stepped inside a church, and it was probably the first big nail in the coffin that started me on my journey to becoming an atheist. You know, the fact that this guy, so closed-minded toward nature, toward any other explanation except his chosen one that he loves so much, he just doesn't want to let go because he just likes it so much. Anyway, this has turned into an extremely long video, but yeah, I have learned to step back. I am learning. I'm sure there's still going to be times that I get all caught up and upset and whatever, but I feel like, you know what, I'm not their puppet to control. I'm not going to get pissed off and whatever just because and you know, they know how to push your buttons. They want atheists to get that way, I think, you know. And I just don't think we should jump through their hoops, you know. Choose your battles. Know when to walk away, because they have to always have the last word too. They always do. This one guy writes me on this thread that I abandoned 3 months ago. He wrote me the other day. He tried to stir the shit and get me back up and running on that thread. He wanted to pick a fight with me. I don't know. He was bored. I don't know. But yeah, that's what they do. They want to look for a reason to platform and spread their poison. And I think they use atheists as a way to do it. So pick your fights, know when to walk away, you know, but still get the message out there. That's what I'm trying to learn to do. So anyway, if you've been watching, thanks. Bye.
I am absolutely convinced that the main source of hatred in the world is religion. And I think it should be religion treated with ridicule and hatred and contempt.
Share the same weather, winter or summer, May or September, the 4th of whenever, it's better together. Let's get together. Home is where